You're watching the Isaiah Factor Uncensored.
And welcome back to the second half hour of the Factor Uncensored. The attorneys for Parkland High School shooter Nikolas Cruz were caught with their guard down in court. The two public defenders were seen wiping away tears during the testimony from a victim's father. It's rare to see attorneys show that kind of emotion in the courtroom. It's just a reminder they're human and they have feelings, at least sometimes, if they're not grilling that ass on the stand trying to win a big civil case. So, Chris, did these attorneys who represent Nikolas Cruz, the Parkland shooter, go too far by showing emotions, crying during the victim's impact statements? And this is their client whose freedom or life is on the line.
No, look, it's emotional, and when you're hearing victim impact statements and you're hearing a great number of them like they've heard, it gets really emotional. And so I've always held the opinion that there is nothing wrong with a defense lawyer showing a proper amount of empathy for true victims and real victims. And you can show empathy for people and still do your job. And you can be very effective in showing the right amount of empathy for people that are real victims. And so I don't think they did anything wrong. I have showed emotion, and I've cried in courtrooms and in front of juries at times, but there are times when there are things going on that you don't want to show emotion as a defense attorney, and you have to keep it in check. And
give us an example of when you don't want to show emotion, Chris.
Well, it just depends on what's going on in the courtroom. There are people, I said real victims as a very pointed statement, because there are people who are feigning victim, and those are the people that you don't want to show emotion to. You want to not let their fake emotion get under your skin, and you have to stay steady and be ready to do your job. In the Oklahoma City bombing trial, there were several times when emotion was overcoming me, and in that trial, I didn't want to let emotion overcome me because I had a very, very serious job to do. But there have been cases where I have gotten up and said straight up, I want to apologize to you about what happened to you, and I want you to understand how sorry I am about what you've been through. And I'm sorry I have to ask you some questions, and then move on. And if that brings a tear to your eye, there's nothing wrong with that. It's if you can't move on that it becomes a problem. Now,
Chris, let's say Nikolas Cruz was on trial here, and there were some questions as to if he did it or not. And if you're before a jury and you hear, say, a witness statement, and you start crying as an attorney who represents Nikolas Cruz, doesn't that hurt you in front of the jury, though?
That would be a time when, if you are contesting his guilt or innocence, and you're there to say he didn't do it, I think that there may be a way that you could, these people still got hurt. Okay, you may be saying I'm not the one who did it, but they still got. You're not saying they didn't get hurt, okay? And so you can still have empathy for the fact that they got hurt and still argue this is not the man who did it.
Okay? And let's bring Cody in really quick, Chris. Cody, obviously these victim impact statements, and I've been in courts covering different cases, when you hear them, they're very powerful, right?
Look, I remember when I was on the school board, any kind of testimony from any of the victims is going to be incredibly powerful, and it's going to be difficult to keep your emotions together. I remember one time, I'll give you an example. I remember one time when we were actually having a board meeting discussing about what to do with the school, because we were going to tear it down. We had to relocate it, right? Well, it was a long process, but we literally had one of the families come in and talk to us as, because one of their children were going to have to go through the schools. They lost one child in the shooting, but they had a younger sibling that had to go through the school system still. And it was a horrible moment to listen to their testimony about how they didn't want their kid, their child, to go through the same school that their sibling was murdered at. If that doesn't affect you emotionally, you're just not a human being. You have no emotion, you have no empathy. You know, I can't imagine how anybody in that courtroom wouldn't have been emotionally drained by the testimony that they were given by all the parents that had to go through this. I've been there, I've had to go through it. There's nothing easy about it.
And Chris, when we have attorneys showing, is it more of a news story than a real impact on the case when we have attorneys crying, even though their client is on the hot seat?
So it becomes a news story because so many lawyers who do what I do feel that they can never show that emotion. And I think they're wrong. I think that the appropriate amount of emotion is really a good thing for your client, that the attorney can show that they see that there are real victims here, and you can do that in the right way and be very effective for your client at the same time. And it doesn't become a news story. What should be the news story, in my view, are the great number of people who feel that I have to show no emotion through this trial, and that makes me an effective lawyer. That's what I think is ineffective, quite frankly.
Gentlemen, thank you.